Welcome back to another video with On Point Politics, and today I want to show you guys what a Republican will have to do in the 2028 presidential election in order to win the Electoral College. Hit the like button and subscribe if you want more content just like this. But before we start with the video, there are online simulations for government on X, and they are currently in the year 2040, and it is a presidential election. These are online simulations with parties, and so I'm going to be filling out my ballot in real time, so you guys can go in the description down below in order to actually vote in this simulation. You can see here. You could probably put, like, I was invited by a campaign to fill out the form, or I found this and it looked interesting. You could put either or. I'll probably just put the campaign for myself. You put which party do you identify yourself with the most, and you select the president with Ronald Reagan and Cashapp for vice president. That is the ballot that you select for president. And then you basically just fill out the Republican nominees for all of the Senate seats. This will be in the description down below for everyone to go ahead and fill out. Now, looking at this video, right, in terms of what a Republican has to do in the Electoral College in order to win a presidential election, these are the demographics, roughly give or speaking, that they'd have to match up to. So you'd basically have to make sure the white non-college graduate vote is about 40% of the electorate. This share will go down over time as more and more people become more college educated, unless there are shifts in the culture where college becomes a little bit less of a prevalent mechanism for education. Then maybe that political dynamic may shift quite a bit. But states like Virginia, Colorado, Minnesota, Kansas, Utah, Arizona, those states have been shifting left or trending left, including North Carolina and Georgia. They've been trending left because of college transplants moving to those states. And so naturally they are more liberal, despite Donald Trump doing very well with them in this cycle. The electorate for the black and Hispanic vote would have to be around both 11% and Asian/other about 5%. You have to get, for a Republican, they'd have to basically get the vote down to roughly about 42% Republican. For Asian/other, that's roughly they'd have to hit 45% of Hispanics, and they'd also have to hit about 15% of the black vote to ensure their victory, including about 45% of the white college graduate vote, and they must hit 65% of white non-college graduate voters. And when you look at that scenario, you see that the Republican narrowly wins the Electoral College. And we can even see here, this just basically proves my point here. You see that, Quantus Insight's a very, accurate pollster. We can see that, they've been tracking Trump's approval rating. He's at about 49% approved to 46% disapprove, and we see here, looking at the white vote, approve about 55%. He's approved of by 20% of black voters, 46% of Hispanic voters approve, and 45% of other voters also, approve of him as well. And we even see here 18 to 29-year-old voters have a pretty decent favorable rating of him, actually about 46%. So that is fairly impressive. And we do see here, obviously his favorable instead of his job approval is slightly worse, but it is still pretty decent, and it's kind of matching the metrics that I'm explaining in my video here. Now, looking at what this map would actually look like with a certain demographic selected, Utah would be in the safe column. This state is more than likely going to move to the left by a lot in 2028. You see it is only a 14-point win on the map here. We could see Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, the Dakotas, which you can see right here. The Dakotas about a 29-point victory in South Dakota and 32-point win in North Dakota, 18-point win in Montana. We see Nebraska basically match the margin from this current election, with the 1st congressional district also being over 12 points. However, we do see that the 2nd congressional district is a likely margin of 9 points for the Democrat, and so you can't really necessarily end up doing fairly. You can't really do fairly well there as a Republican. Like, it is not required to take the 2nd district in order to win the election. Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, and South Carolina, those are all going to be, over, 12-point wins here. So you do see all of that, with South Carolina being a little bit above 15. And we even see here Ohio ends up falling just above 12 points into the safe column as well. That is actually about it. I think Maine's 2nd congressional district, it's almost in the safe column. It's 11.9%. So we'll leave that in the likely column. Iowa, Texas, Florida would also have to be in the likely column there, especially Iowa above 10 or almost at 11. Texas at about 9, and Florida at about 11 points for the Republican is, a fairly reasonable estimate to where it is necessary in order for the Republican to win. Alaska barely above a safe margin there, so 219 electoral votes. California, Oregon, Washington can be above. California can be a 25-point win for the Democrat. Nothing above would be a good sign for the Republican, though. Oregon and Washington could be pretty left-leaning, and the Republican could still win, given the demography. Colorado, 13.7. Hispanics have kind of stalled the trend in the state of Colorado, to the left. However, with college whites, you do kind of have the state kind of trending left, but Hispanics move it right, so it's kind of stagnant. We see Illinois at 16 points for the Democrat. Again, not required to have it under 10 or close to 10 in order to win the Electoral College, as well as, Maryland, Massachusetts, and Vermont. These are bluer than they were in 2024, but nowhere near as blue as they would be in order for the Democrat to win. And we see, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Delaware, those are, higher double-digit wins, about almost 20 points. However, they are not required to win the Electoral College, and New York is about close to 15 points here. Hawaii in this one is about a 22-point win. So as long as Hawaii narrows up from the last cycle, you can kind of take that as somewhat of a good sign, but it is a right trending state, and so I wouldn't be surprised to see the state move to the right, even if the Republican loses the general election. Now, looking at, you see New York as well, that is there, and in Maine's first, we also see a 23-point win in the district there, which is about the same as last time. It's basically, I have it here about the same margin as 2024. Maine is not required to win the Electoral College, and I really don't think it has any bearing on the Electoral College performance of the Republican, as long as they're able to win in other areas. New Mexico, anywhere around 8 points is a good sign, because a Republican, as long as you're hitting 65% of the white non-college vote, and you hit the benchmarks, if you see like an 8-point victory here, that is still a good sign for a Republican, just because you have white liberal college grads, boosting up Democrat numbers in the state. Virginia, roughly give or take a 7.5-point win is roughly the area where the Republican could narrowly eke out the victory. And you even see a similar margin in New Jersey. So roughly about the same margins in New Jersey and Virginia. That can kind of cause, pretty much, basically end up roughly give or take being, the margins necessary for the Republican to win. And Minnesota could actually be like a 6-point win, and the Republican could still end up winning the election. Even New Hampshire could be close to 9 points, and that would still give an opportunity for the Republican to win, because New Hampshire has a lot of liberal Boston implants, and so that is generally a really big problem for Republicans in the state. And there is a big anti-Trump, anti-conservative sentiment in the state of New Hampshire now, and so because of that, it is hard for a Republican to win it at the presidential level, but it is not required to win the Electoral College. And you come down to the swing states here with North Carolina at just above 3 points. That is the good benchmark to have it at. I mean, Trump won it by 3.2 this time, and he was able to win the election. And so that's a good benchmark to have it at. The Republican registration trends look good in the state of North Carolina, and so I don't know if it would flip next time, albeit though if the Democrat wins, I actually think North Carolina ends up flipping into the Democrat column as of right now. The state of Nevada, about a 3-point win in the state is good. I think it is going to vote to the right of Arizona in the next cycle. And by the way, this is like a D+1 national environment. This is basically the Democrat winning the popular vote by like just about a point, give or take, is what this environment would be. And the state of Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, these all end up being, tilt margins for the Republican, all under 2 points, with Arizona being the highest margin of victory of just about a point. And we see Pennsylvania at 0.9%, with Wisconsin at 0.5, Michigan at 0.7. The only one that does not end up going into the column is the state of Georgia, which it could very well go either way. I think Wisconsin and Georgia would be the ones that could break off from 2024 if like J.D. Vance were to win the election. I think those could break off. Maybe even Michigan breaks off just because of Pennsylvania's voter registration trends being a lot better for Republicans recently. And so that's kind of my thoughts on that. But this is about what the map would look like for the Republican to narrowly eke out a win in 2028. Georgia is not required, in my opinion, to win the Electoral College in 2028. It would be good to have it, but given its trends with the Atlanta suburbs, those areas are eventually going to be voting to the left of what is needed in certain areas in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin in order to even win the Electoral College. And so in 2028, I actually don't think that Georgia is required for the Republican to win on this map. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And make sure to go ahead and please, guys, fill out this form in the description down below so you can make your voices heard in online politics. It will actually make a difference. I will see you guys in the next video.